Welcome. Welcome to How to Become a Super Manifester. Great blessings, great love, great warmth to each and every one of you on this webinar tonight. We have an entire hour together. It's an hour together, but this is going to go by so fast. And even though this looks a little bit like television, I'm talking to you on television, we are going to give you an opportunity to participate about halfway through and share and hear from some of you. And also, while you're listening to me, we'd like you to completely apply this to a specific area of your life. Apply it in that our work is always about practical spirituality. So it is practically applying to everyday life. Okay, so this is the time of year when we're approaching the holidays, and we're also bringing in a new year in a few weeks, believe it or not. So this is a time when you find yourself in situations that maybe you're overwhelmed with so much to do. Perhaps you know that you're going to go to some family situations that are a little bit rocky. It may be that you are launching something brand new into the new year. So whatever brought you to this webinar and how to be a super manifester, bring that to mind as we move throughout this webinar. So let's face it, as we seek to reach our highest potential, there is always more to learn, always more to expand, always more to grow. So today, as we look at the power in your minds and we explore the higher mental faculties, we'll be bringing out what's already inside of you. And a lot of this you may have even heard before, but this is the opportunity to bring greater awareness to those higher faculties and to dedicate and decide, yes, I'm going to expand them, and I'm going to expand them in this particular way. So how we're going to work in this hour is there is a chat function, and you can ask questions at any time. We are monitoring the chat function. And then if some of you would like to say something, we can elevate your status to being a panelist so we can see you if you are on a webcam, and then you can speak. So this webinar is being offered by Awakened Life. And Awakened Life, I love this. The ultimate goal of Awakened Life is awakened humanity, where each individual is an expression of their unique gifts, and our team is committed to uplifting and empowering people to change their mind, that's very good. I can think of a few people I'd like to do that with. Change their lives and take tangible action to improve the world around them. So the work of the power in your minds and the teachings behind this webinar are brought to us by Her Holiness Sai Ma. And many of you may know Sai Ma. She is a living spiritual master, and she's known throughout the world as a healer and humanitarian. In 2007, Sai Ma was honored with the prestigious title of Jagat Guru, she was the first woman in 2,700 years in the Vishnu Swami lineage to receive such a prestigious title in recognition for all the humanitarian work and the spiritual mastery that she has. I met Sai Ma back in 2005. And I've been teaching programs for Sai Ma for over 10 years. I met her, and I just loved the kind of unfolding, the spiritual awakening that started in me. And it was fast, and it was vigorous, and the more I grow, the more I know there is to grow with her. Okay, so think of this area right now in your present life that you would like to unleash the 6 higher mental faculties on. So I'd love to hear from some of you in, hello, everyone. They're saying hello on the chats. Hi, good to see you. If you could type in some of the things that you are thinking about. And for this webinar, I want you to be very, very, very specific. Say the relationship with my brother. Say advancement at work. Say maybe you have a troubled situation. It's a situation in my community. Whatever it may just be simply want to be more effective in a certain area of your life. Raise your awareness about something. Have clarity about a certain situation. So if you could chat, use your chat functions now, and I could read out a couple of the focus areas that you're working on in this webinar, and we can hear from you. So don't be shy. Oh, good. Joy and ease at work. So keep them coming, and I'll read them as they come in. Financial freedom. Perfect. By the way, joy is one of the key elements that must be there to be a super manifester. In my observation of working with thousands, literally thousands and thousands of people, when people are at their best, it's always the environment of joy and almost exhilaration if you were in an environment of super manifesting. If you're working real hard and you're trying to grind it out and you're frustrated, that's the first thing. Relax and bring yourself into joy, and ultimately bring yourself into a state of love. That is where true manifestation happens. Okay, so now I'm going to read a few more. Clarity and continuing a friendship that may not serve. Very good. My legacy, clarity and healing from past trauma. Advancement and progression of career. Joy in every moment. Thank you. Grow my community. Find a new life partner and build a conscious, loving relationship. I would like to deepen and have a greater commitment to my sadhana practice. Fantastic. Okay, thank you for all those who gave us some of the ideas of what you're working on in this next hour. And so let's dive in. You may even want to write it down, what you just said. Relationship with self and how I interact with others. That is terrific. If some of you who can't think of something for some reason, I can't imagine that you might not, but if there is anybody, the one that just went up there, deepen your relationship with self and expand your relationship with yourself, that would be a great one to consider for this period of time and the rest of life. Okay, so thank you. Increase my income by 3 times. Launching my yogic therapy practice. I love that one about increase my income by 3 times. It's very specific. So I love it. Okay, so let's jump in. Harnessing the power of your higher mental faculties. Let's look first down at the 5 senses there. We all know we have 5 senses. And matter of fact, we live mostly inside of these 5 senses. You know, the world is only as big as what I can see, what I can taste, what I can smell, what I can hear, and what I can touch. That's quite fascinating, because not only that, but we'll look at how the subconscious works in a moment that comes in through these 5 senses. But we have so much more beyond these 5 senses than we even know. And here are 6 areas that we're going to explore on this webinar tonight. There's a lot more, but just imagine you have so much beyond your 5 senses that you are unaware of, and I include myself in that as well. So there's an entire world that we haven't even considered, an entire world that we haven't considered to expand further. So let's jump into the subconscious mind. Okay. I love this diagram because you can see with everything coming at us, there's so much stimulus that's coming at us in our life and in our just throughout life. And our subconscious acts like a sponge. It acts like a sponge that can soak up anything. It soaks up everything. It soaks up every single detail. So as long as you've been living, and I would think beyond when you were living in this lifetime, as well as when you were in your mother's womb, you are soaking up every detail, including not only what comes in through your five senses, but everything else. And you have now a full sponge. And here's the interesting thing, and it took you no effort to do it, by the way, 0 effort to soak this all up. And now, here's what happens in the subconscious mind at a very high level. It has no idea of past, present, and future. So there you have all of this information that you draw upon, and it does not discern if that information is from the past, and some of it is inaccurate information, as we know, or is it from the present, or is it in the future? So some of you people that talked about how do I expand my yoga practice, for example, you already know a whole lot about yoga practices. You know how they go, you know how yours went, you know how other people's went. And so it seems like that in our subconscious mind, all that we've soaked up, it can't tell is that the past, the present, or the future. So it expands that for you. That's why when we go to do something, it seems like there's our own self can be our worst enemy sometimes, because we pull it up from our subconscious mind about how it's got to go. So what can we do about that? Very briefly, what there is to do about that is relax. Simply relax. If your unconscious mind is on overdrive, then what there is to do is to acknowledge that, accept it, and then welcome it. So you're going to see your sibling during the holiday time. You have a lot of things you've collected in your sponge about your sibling. So simply acknowledge that it's there, the whole thing, and accept your sibling as your sibling. Everything that's good, bad, ugly, indifferent, wonderful, everything. Accept it fully, and then welcome it. And an interesting thing happens when you welcome it. So now, if you were to look at that area, just be aware. Your subconscious mind has soaked up everything. And if it starts to bubble up, if it starts to overtake what you're out to do, then what there is to do is acknowledge it, accept it, and welcome it. Now, the first higher mental faculty, imagination. And you can see on the screen the joy of imagination and the wildness of imagination. Now, for many of us, we know we have imagination, and some of us have forgotten that we can imagine imagining. So that's the first step. Imagine that you can imagine beyond your wildest dreams. So again, anything that has come to manifestation in the world, any object out here that I'm in an office looking out at the chairs and the lights and the computers and everything. And if you think about it, every single thing had to start with imagination. Someone had to think of that. Someone had to dream it. And then they had to manifest that and put it into real terms. So, or into real life here. Real, in quotes, life. So take your area, whatever it is, and begin to imagine beyond where you've let yourself imagine before. And for some of you, close your eyes and see that yoga studio or see that sibling. Imagine it Imagine it how you desire it to be. Imagine it in its fullness. Imagine it in terms of how you can see it. What do you experience when you're with your sibling in that situation? What's that like? Are there any senses, any smells? And what's the fullest it could possibly be? Someone said advancement in your work. Yeah, imagine what is the most ambitious, the most far out thing to imagine in that area. And this is where the subconscious can get a little tricky, because it'll begin to pop up and it will begin to say, oh my gosh, if I imagine that, I'm going to have to do it. No, you don't have to do it if you can imagine it. So let yourself have fun with it. This isn't about giving you more to do. This is about sparking your imagination. And some of your subconscious comes up and said, oops, what if I fail? What if I imagine I want to be the CEO of my company and I don't do it? Okay, that's totally fine. We're working on sparking the imagination so it even can begin to have a chance at being manifest. Okay, so, the other thing the subconscious might kick up is, oh, that's nonsense. That could never happen. Good. Then acknowledge, welcome, acknowledge, accept, and welcome. So take that area and use your infant imagination. Your infant, that's infinite and infant. The kind you had as a kid, the kind you were born with, the kind that looked and saw and could imagine almost anything. Okay. So now, that's the second higher mental faculty. The next one is intuition, the higher mental faculty of intuition. Now remember, at the beginning of this webinar, I said we were all born with this. It's not that you either have intuition or you don't have intuition. We all have intuition. And we know we do. It's that when we honor the intuition and when we begin to trust it more and more, it expands. We can hear it more. And the more you could say there's a gut feeling or a sense that you have, and even a divine knowing that you have. Some of those people, some of you who sat up there, you wanted clarity in a particular situation. Give yourself the time to relax and ask yourself, what do I know about this situation? What is inherent in this situation? Now, sometimes intuition guides you into things that we find scary, or, oh my gosh, how is that going to turn out if I really followed my intuition? It's uncharted. It may be something you've never done before, but you know that it's right. And if you can get it to the point of you can do no other but to follow your intuition and go with it. And the more and more we do that, the more and more natural it becomes, and the more it expands. And the more we begin to honor other people's intuition as well. So now look back at that situation. Look back at your sibling, look back at the family gathering, look back at the area that you took on, and ask yourself, what does that wise part of me know about the situation? Take a look. Okay, ready to go on to the next higher mental faculty? Have fun with this one, by the way. It's one of my favorite higher mental faculties. And as in all of these higher mental faculties, the more you use them, the more they get strengthened, and the more they become what lights the way and what guides us. And then the subconscious is just a wonderful way to store everything. Okay, perception. Okay, perception. What is perception? Looking at something from a lot of different angles. Now, I have a wonderful experience with perception. I was leading a program with Jagadananda in London last year. And in front of about, I think there was 400 people from a lot of different cultures. So it was the time when it was very popular on the internet to have that audio recording of Yanni and Laurel. I don't know if some of you remembered it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. New York Times Yanni Laurel debate. Yanny Laurel debate, and it will pop up. So what it is it's a recording that we played to over 400 people. And we asked, how many of you hear Yanni in this recording? And about half the people raised their hands. So it wasn't on one side of the room or in the middle. It was even distribution throughout the room. About half of them said Yanni, and the other half said Laurel. And they were just as, from a variety of cultures, and just as many said either one. And then a few people heard something completely different. But then you could feel their angst coming up and said, that's not Yanni, that's Laurel. And the people who heard Laurel said, how could you possibly hear Yanni? It was so crystal clear through their receptors that it was Yanni or Laurel. And then what happens in that moment is you go, wow, it's very clear in a room of 400 people that maybe the way we perceive is completely different than how the person sitting right next to us perceives something. And it really does seem like that is the way it is. And you could feel the frustration level rise. So the world is not static. It wasn't one or the other. Matter of fact, I loved going on, if you go on that website, you can practice how you can hear both of them. And you move the dial and you can hear Laurel on one side, and then you can hear Yanni on the other side because the frequency is different, but it's contained in the same audio. So once you can hear both of them, there's something that happens in the brain. And Sai Ma, Her Holiness Sai Ma, loves to talk about a flexible brain, how we can develop having a flexible brain, and where we can imagine, maybe how we're hearing it is not how it is the truth. Perhaps it's not the truth at all. It's just perception. So with the situation, go back and look at the situation. Do you have any perception that you are dead sure it is the way that it is? And then see if you can develop a flexible brain and maybe it's coming from their point of view. Maybe it's coming from the light's point of view. Maybe it's coming from an alligator's perspective. How would an alligator see that situation? How would a star see that situation? So move into that and see if you can actively activate this higher mental faculty of perception and develop the flexible brain. Okay. The next higher mental faculty is memory. This is also one that I have really enjoyed learning about and applying, in that I used to think that, okay, I have a pretty good memory. Over the time, I've learned quite a few things. And I've also noticed that a lot of people say over time, your memory diminishes. And I would see my memory, okay, I'm remembering less and less about something that happened a long time ago, and think, okay, well, that's just the way it goes. And then you see these people who are much older, they go, okay, well, it gets smaller and smaller. What if that was a perception of memory? And memory is a higher mental faculty that you can learn to expand, learn to ignite, learn to use for your benefit. And in the Power of the Mind programs, we go deep into how you can use memory. For purposes of this webinar, I'd like to draw out one aspect of it. And that is, if memory is not this small diminishing thing that's happened and it stores things from the past, to its memory, a higher mental faculty. That means that I can create future memories. And this becomes very, very, very important if you want to be a super manifester, because it's the idea that we create our future memories. So now take a look, go back and look at that area that you took on for this webinar and say, and create one future memory. And create a memory as vivid as the ones you had when you went to your favorite restaurant, or when we always remember when our children are born, or when something, we get proposed to, or something, we get promoted. We remember certain moments. You know how vivid those are? So now see if you can create a future memory that is just as vivid, just as precise, just as vivid. So if it is your sibling at the holiday time, what's the future memory? What are you doing? It's like a snapshot. So being an imaginer and activating our higher mental faculty of imagination literally means being an image maker. So this relates to your memory and creating a future memory. Be an image maker. And it's almost like if we don't do this, you know what you're going to have? You're going to have all the images from your subconscious mind, and you're going to think those are real. Well, what about future memories? What about creating some of those? So I'd like you to take a moment and apply it to that situation. And even if there's some people on the webinar that have done the Power in Your Minds program before, this is a great refresher. This is a great reminder, and a great reminder that we can continually expand and we can continually apply these higher mental faculties. Okay, so now that we're doing that, we're going to go to reason, which is the ability to think properly. I love this image of the puzzle, because the puzzle is when we're solving a puzzle, that begins to get at this higher mental faculty of reason, what it feels like. I love when I'm on an airplane flying someplace to play that game Free Cell, because it takes a certain kind of thinking to put I don't know if any of you have played Free Cell, but you can feel it. It's like solving a puzzle. You're halfway in the middle and you go, I don't think I'm going to solve this. And you keep looking at it and thinking things through. And if this goes here, that goes there, this goes here, that goes there. And then all of a sudden it opens up and the whole thing turns out. Just like solving a complex problem, a complex puzzle. So this higher mental faculty of reason, you can apply it to your area that we've been talking about. Somebody who, if you want the promotion or the yoga studio, that's a great example. With the yoga studio, you may not have all the pieces figured out yet, but apply reason and see how, if I did this, I did that, like a mathematical equation, what would be the best scenario? Have other people look at what's at your scenarios you've drawn. How is it going to be profitable? All that stuff is done through activating the higher mental faculty of reason. Okay, the last one that we're going to talk about on the webinar tonight is will. Pure intent. So this higher mental faculty of will is about getting focused and directing your energy, because we're always directing our energy at something. And we all know that you could say everything is energy. And it becomes the glue of all the higher mental faculties. And this will is the ability to concentrate and focus in one area and focus your energy. And then it moves in. How come it's the glue? Is it moves into all the other mental faculties. You focus your energy on those future memories. You focus your energy on the perception and shifting perception. You focus it on expanding your imagination, etc. So what is your authentic will in the area you chose? Why I say authentic will, it's pure intent. Maybe getting along with your sibling is something you think you ought to do, or you should do, or it would be good to do, or a good human being gets along with their brother or sister or whatever. So if look to see what the intent is and see what the will is. And when you get to the will, it's as if it shall be. You are focused and holding that. And then the other distractions, they just fall away. And know that there will be distractions. And it's a practice focusing in on that. So right now, decide what is your authentic will in the area that you chose. Okay, so while you're working on that, in just a moment, we're going to open up the chat room. And if you would like to share any questions you have about what we've covered so far, anything that you are now realizing, anything that you'd like to share about any of this, about how you're applying it, please let us know. And we will look at the panelists and we'll look at the chat here and elevate you to a panelist, if you would. Okay, here we go. Stephanie, would you be willing to say something about, or hi, Cynthia. How are you, Cynthia? We'll unmute you.
Hi, Lucinda.
There, we can hear you now. Hi, Cynthia.
Okay. Hi, I have a question for you, Lucinda. Thank you very much for doing this, by the way.
You're welcome.
I have a question about reason, which is right. As you mentioned, the definition of reason is right thinking.
Proper thinking, yes.
Proper thinking, proper thinking. So I always felt like I'm a fairly, use reason a lot in my life to get to where I am now. Yep. And I am starting to realize that there's more to this. And I'm having a little bit of struggle about defining what right reason is and what wrong reason is.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you might be able to touch a little bit on that and how we could maybe distinguish, or how I can distinguish that.
That is fantastic question, because it gets into a little bit of how we perceive something, and the Yanni Laurel example, because if we get so sure about something, then we're stuck, we're attached, we have a leash on us that we don't even know we have, and then we can relax that a bit to free ourselves. That's very different than when you apply it into the realm of reason. If you notice that you have, when you said right or wrong, if you can feel you're attached to something, or you're being strangled, or you're being limited by something. It's like a dog on a leash, and we don't know we're on a leash. The difference between us and a dog is the dog actually knows they're on a leash. We don't know we're on a leash sometimes. So as you apply this higher mental faculty of reason, if there's any of that stuff in there that you're attached to, where it has to turn out a particular way, that's what I would consider to be right reason or wrong reason. Now, proper reason is when it kind of clicks together. It's like in the puzzle, there really is a way that the puzzle goes together. And proper reasoning is to think through. And when you come upon it, it kind of clicks. You have that aha feeling when it comes together. Same thing, I work with a lot of businesses in my business, and I know that as I'm working with the spreadsheets and I'm working with all the dimensions that I have to work with, I go, if I invest over here, it's going to affect this over here, and what about the employees over here? It's a puzzle, and it does require reason. And I'm not necessarily attached or leashed by something. When I undo that, then I can see properly. I can think clearly. So,
okay.
Does that help?
Yes, that helps tremendously. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, someone else?
For me, perception was more something that I don't have like a control on. Like the others, I can choose to use imagination. It's very clear that it's an energy that I can use as a tool, and intuition and will is the same as in my perception. That's it. I use the word perception here. But does it mean that I have the control to change my perception? Because I believe I do have that control. But isn't it something that is there, and I'm not sure that it's an energy like the others that I can use as a tool to create my goal or whatever?
It is. And you can create your perception without a doubt. And
Okay.
it's a higher mental faculty to begin to practice with, because you can see your perception. And how come it's kind of hard to see that it would be somehow you could create another one? Imagine you created the one you have already. Okay?
So it's a limitation there. I can see limitation with my perception.
I'm sorry, didn't hear you.
I can see a lot of limitation that comes with my perception.
Yes, yes. And let's say you might not have consciously created it, but if you step into, yes, you created it through whatever, through decisions you made unconsciously, now you can consciously create a new perception. Okay?
Yes, it's clearer now. Yes, and I like it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you can create more than one. You can then put yourself in this situation, create another one. And then the one you like, you hang on to that.
So as soon as I have a perception that seems to block me in some way, I can like stop and being conscious of it and transmute it, or just activate something else to go on, because there is no limitation, as I can understand, isn't it?
Yes, no limitation.
Cool. I like it.
Yes. And now apply it to that area you were taking on. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And for those of you who are in this webinar or listening to this webinar afterwards, who would like to put yourself in a 6-month deep dive into manifestation, we spoke about this at the beginning and in the invitation. There's a Power in Your Mind's 6-month online course. And I want to take a moment to read some of the benefits. I'm going to put them up on the screen to read the benefits of this program. And then right afterwards, I'd love to hear if there's a couple people on the webinar tonight that have done the program, and how have these benefits applied to your life and what has happened. We did a program starting last year about this time, last January, and went through the first 6 months. And then there's been other programs that are starting. There's another one starting January 1st of this year. So here's the 6-month online course. Each week, you receive new content, including an inspirational welcome message from Saima, inviting you into that week's work. Then there's weekly audio messages from Saima that are designed to listen to daily, using the power of repetition to establish new brain patterns and habits. Of course, I love doing this. I listen to it as I was waking up in the morning, doing, getting ready and so on, and then I listened to it as I was going to sleep. So every day, it wasn't just a teaching. The teachings contain divine Shakti, divine energy. So you're being soaked in the divine energy of these higher mental faculties for an entire 6 months, and you get a new recording every week. Then you get a video of one of Saima's personally trained teachers, which will help you take the teachings about the higher mental faculties and apply them in your daily life. That would be someone like me. I think there are 6 other teachers in addition to myself in the Power in Your Minds course. A guided exercise such as meditation practice, journaling, or other activities to support you in strengthening each higher mental faculty. So, and then there's energetic support behind the scenes from Saima. That is probably the biggest benefit of this entire program, who is a living enlightened master and activates the program with pure divine energy of creation. Then there's also the opportunity to form into small groups. so you can have discussion groups. And then there are 3 live community video calls with a teacher. So you can have, get your questions answered, say how it's going, etc. So I'd like to turn to, is there somebody, Michael, I'd like to invite you to say something about the Power in Your Mind's course.
Yes, thank you. I am so excited to share this with everyone. You know, when I started the program, I thought, you know, I'm a pretty open guy. I'm open to lots of possibilities and, you know, anything's possible. And come to find out, I didn't know how burdened my mind really was and how much was there that was affecting what was possible, what I could really manifest in my life, right? Mm-hmm. And specifically, I was looking, I live in Colorado, and the real estate market is really crazy here. It's hard to find a house, and we had a condo that was being built, and to most they would say, "Oh, this is really great. It's a great place. It's really beautiful." But I didn't want to live there. But I thought, you know, it's good. It's really great. I should just, it's the best that we can get here, and it's still really good. So just accept that.
Yeah.
And I used the program, the higher mental faculties of imagination and will and memory, future memory. Mm-hmm. And every day I'm listening to Saima. And I see in my mind me in this condo with this view of the mountains, like all these windows that I'm so expanded, and I see all this view, right? And over time, as I'm doing the program, I'm seeing more and more details. Where I'm standing, I saw this table, this beautiful wooden dining room table, and I'm standing there with coffee, and I'm so grateful looking at the sunrise and the mountains, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this isn't going to happen. This really isn't going to happen. But keep going, keep doing, keep repetition. Saima speaks about repetition. Well, I can tell you that this happened. I closed on this new condo, and this table is there. It's this wall of windows that looks out over the mountains. And this condo was hundreds of thousands of dollars less than the one we were buying before.
Wow.
Like there was no way that was gonna, if you would have said it's gonna be cheaper and more of what you want, I would have said, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Using these things caused a manifestation that I barely could imagine. So powerful. I'm so grateful. And listening to Saima every day, it was like sitting with Saima every day in my meditation, in my house, in my home, creating together. It was so powerful. So grateful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And you closed on it. When do you move in?
We moved in like 5 days ago.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations. That is terrific. And you know, manifestation is having those things happen in your life. And being a super manifester is to be able to apply that to every area.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm so happy to hear the outcome of that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm expecting an invitation.
Yes.
Okay, Harriet?
Yes, hello everybody. It's
Hi,
great to
Harriet.
meet you all. And I don't have a new condo to share.
Okay.
However, for me, the power in the minds was so profound. You know, Ma kept talking about this being a paradigm shift. You know, it wasn't just about learning to do this and learning to do that. It was actually about sort of, for me, it was like screwing my head on in a whole different way. You know, because I pretty much had it. There was all this stuff out there. There was me over here. And I had to figure out how to get that stuff out there to do what I want, whatever. I mean, I don't know what to call the paradigm I lived in. But and I didn't quite get it at first, even though Ma kept saying it and saying it. And then all of a sudden I went, oh my God, this is like an entirely new paradigm. This is like really getting that my mind creates my reality. And that I sort of am what I think. And when I that really began to dawn on me, like that's really what Ma's saying. I mean, she's, you know, and that might really be the way it is. I started operating totally differently in life. One of the big differences was this thing Ma talked about, what you put in your mind. She called mind food. You know, given my mind creates my world, what am I putting in my mind? And I saw I put a lot of really awful stuff in my mind. Either stuff I watched, stuff I read, people I listened to. And I really I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not putting stuff in my mind that's kind of like lower frequency, contracting. I'm going to look for things that expand me, that raise my energy, that raise my vibration. And it's really interesting because now these things just are coming to me. You know, before we got on this call, I was doing something and suddenly I'm listening to something by Tony Robbins. Where did it come from? I have no idea. It just emerged into my computer, right? So I just finding books, you know, people's conversations. So I'm attracting. You know, one of the big things Ma talked about was the law of attraction. And that's really things I've noticed is attracting higher frequency, higher energy, more uplifting thoughts, ideas. So that was kind of like that was kind of the underlying really big thing for me. Also for me was the thing about imagination. And I really saw that I had stopped using my imagination. And I don't know when I stopped, but I just didn't use my imagination. And what I called my imagination was more about predicting terrible things that could happen. But I really had stopped using my imagination. And you know, to kind of give a very, I mean, it's a very mundane example. It's not, you know, earth shattering. But one of the things I saw that, my husband and I have been married for a long time. Okay. And I make dinner every night. And I definitely was bringing no imagination to this experience. It was like really boring. You know, and every day the same, what do you want? I don't know, what do you want? But anyway, I decided to apply imagination. I have been cooking, I've been creating things. I can't even tell you what's been happening. My husband's very happy, by the way.
Very good.
But that's a very kind of, you know, very kind of mundane example, but a very important example for me of bringing imagination to my life.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Harriet. And it really does turn into a way of living. There are these big things that happen. There's an opportunity to create goals in certain areas and see them happen. And it's a way of living in life. Okay, what am I doing tomorrow? Have I brought my imagination to it? Have I brought the higher faculties to it? What is the future memory of it? And if I'm not focused with a will on this in this situation, then I'm creating by default, not creating by consciously creating. And we are conscious creators. We are creating our reality. We are creating our life. Okay, so let me give you some details for those of you who would like to join us January 1st. And there's a special offer on this webinar. If we can put up that on the screen, that would be amazing. Okay, so it starts January 1st, 2019. And we're giving you a special code on this webinar called Webinar Gift for $500 off the power in your minds. And you must register by December 30th. So the price, the financial investment for the program is $3,300. So at this $500 off, that would be $2,800. So, and also by listening to this webinar, there's a bonus that comes with it, 40 days with Sai Ma online course, which is free. which is for 40 days, 10 to 15 minutes audio of Saima daily for 40 days. So this special offer is available for those of you on the webinar, and also it would be available to anybody who would like to do the Power in Your Minds course by registering by December 30th, 2018. So now you know what you might want for the holidays, what you'd like Santa to bring you, or you want to gift yourself during this blessed time of the holidays. Okay, and how you get into this is again on the screen, thepowerinyourminds.com. So happy holidays. Thank you for being on this webinar. And I wish you great love. I wish you great fulfillment. Thank you so much.